Rangers don't like to talk about places that disappear from maps. Officially, it doesn't happen. Every square meter of national parks is documented, measured, and mapped on topographic maps by the U.S. Geological Survey. But in my 14 years at North Cascades, I've learned to recognize the silence of my colleagues when it comes to certain areas. A silence that hides not ignorance, but an unwillingness to remember. My name is Daniel Carter. In October 1996, I undertook the routine updating of a trail guide for the eastern sector of the park. A simple clerical job for the winter. Reconcile old routes, clarify descriptions, note changes over the years. I wasn't looking for mysteries, but some mysteries find you on their own. It all started with a discrepancy in a report from 12 years ago. The location of the accident, 2.5 miles northeast of the Sourdough Trail Fork, elevation marker 5,800 feet. I checked the modern map. At the indicated location, there is a cliff. A vertical wall descends 400 feet down. According to the documents, it's always been that way. But the 1984 report described a flat site with a temporary camp for a geological party. The old maps were stored in the basement of the administrative building in Marble Mount. Dusty cupboards, yellowed folders, the smell of mold and forgotten years. I found a topographical map of the sector from 1983. The coordinates led to a gentle slope labeled Old Golden Hope Mine Trail. The 1988 map showed a familiar cliff, and a note in small print. Landslide 1987. The area is closed to the public. Order hash 8719. In the 4 years between maps, it wasn't just the trail that disappeared. A whole part of the mountain has disappeared. The first rule of paperwork is always check cross-references. The 1984 report is signed by Stephen Pierce, Chief Ranger, Eastern Sector. I knew that name. Steve was my mentor for the first 2 years of my service. Taught me how to read tracks, predict weather from clouds, never trust October snow in the mountains. Died last year. Heart. But a month before he died, he stopped by the station. They had coffee, talked about old times. And then he looked strangely at the map of the eastern sector on the wall. Dan, you were a surveyor, weren't you? Military? 5 years in the Corps of Engineers. So, you know, cards lie sometimes, not out of malice. It's just some things are better off on paper. I didn't pay much attention at the time. Old men like to talk in riddles. Now, looking at his signature under the report, I remembered that conversation. Ordinance hash 8719 was found in a folder of administrative documents. Standard form? Due to geological instability following the landslide of the 21st of March 1987, the area to the NE of the Sourdough Trail within a 2-mile radius is closed to the public. The time frame is until further notice, signed by the park superintendent, and a handwritten note. Copies to the Park Service, Geological Survey, Department of Energy. Department of Energy? Why on earth would they have a landslide in a national park? The files of the 1984 Geological Party listed 4 people. The leader was Dr. Margaret Chen of the University of Washington. I called the university from the office. Dr. Chen? Yes, she used to work for us, but she, died in a car accident in 1985. The whole family, tragic accident. The second geologist, Robert Haskell, died of cancer in 1989. The third, James Wu, drowned while on holiday in Hawaii in 1990. The fourth, technician Alexei Volkov, resigned in 1984. Address unknown. 4 people, 3 dead. 1 disappeared. Went back to Pierce's report, read it more carefully. The 28th of October, 1430. Received a call from a geological party. Dr. Chen reported the discovery of an uncharted adit. Requests legal advice. The find may be of historical value. I'm on my way to the site. 1645, arrived at the geologist's camp. The adit is really old. The entrance is partially backfilled. The wooden sign barely reads, Golden Hope Mining Company. But the oddity is that inside the adit is modern equipment. Concrete reinforcements, remnants of electrical wiring. Definitely not from the 1920s. 1730. Dr. Chen insists on continuing the study. Technician Volkov is adamantly opposed. Says his dosimeter shows elevated background levels. Minor but above normal. It's decided to return in the morning with proper equipment. The 29th of October, 9 o'clock. Returned with the radiometer from the station. The geologist's camp is empty. Tents are in place, things are scattered, the car is standing. Tracks lead to the adit and break off at the entrance. Called for backup. 11 o'clock. A search team arrived. They examined the Adit 200 meters deep. The collapse blocked further passage. No sign of geologists. Radiation background is really elevated. Specialists have been called in. Nothing further. Not a word about the results of the search. No mention of the fate of the geologists. It was as if the report was cut off at half a word. There was a yellow sticker on the last page of the folder. Pierce's handwriting. Dan, if you're reading this, you found a discrepancy. Don't dig any further. For Linda and the kids, don't dig. Some places should remain lost. S. Linda is my ex-wife. The kids, Tommy and Sarah, live with her in Seattle. Steve knew about the divorce, knew I didn't see them much. But what does that have to do with them? Collected copies of the documents in a folder. On my way out of the archives, I met Carl Bennett, an old-timer in the park. He'd been working here since the 70s. Carl, do you remember the landslide of '87? He glanced down at the folder in my hands. What landslide? Well, Sordo's neighborhood. He's the reason they closed the precinct. Ah, that landslide. Yeah, I remember. It rattled the windows in Marble Mount. But the weird thing is, which one? The seismographs were silent, not a single tremor. And for such a landslide, you need a good earthquake. But the bosses said landslide, so it's a landslide. We're not allowed to argue. Sitting at home this evening, studying maps. If there was no landslide, what had happened? And why is it that everyone who could tell the truth is dead or gone? On a 1983 topographic map, the trail to Golden Hope Mine looked abandoned but passable. At 5,800 feet elevation, it is about halfway up the Boston Glacier. October is not a good time for mountain hiking, but snow should not yet cover the old trails. I'll apply for a route inspection to update the guidebook in the morning. Formally, as part of my job. Realistically, I want to see with my own eyes what is behind the coordinates that are no longer on the maps. Steve warned me not to dig, but I've always been stubborn. It cost me my marriage and a normal relationship with my kids. Maybe for once, stubbornness will lead to something worthwhile. Outside the window, it was starting to rain. In the mountains, that meant snow at altitude. We should hurry while the passes were open. I'm moving out tomorrow. I left at 5 in the morning. Officially, it was to check the condition of the trails before the winter season. In my rucksack, apart from the standard equipment, copies of old maps, a radiometer from the station, a camera with 3 films, and a Glock 17 in a holster. After the army, I don't like to go to the mountains without a gun. The drive to the start of the Sourdough Trail took 2 hours. October dawn painted the peaks pink. Not a cloud. Rare luck for the Cascades. But the barometer was dropping. By evening, the weather would turn bad. I left the Jeep in the car park. According to the logbook, I'm the only visitor for the week. No wonder the official trail leads to the glacier and is not very popular even in summer. The first 2 miles are a standard climb through the forest, Douglas fir replaced by mountain hemlocks, then subalpine meadows. At the fork, I turned right, following the compass to the northeast. This is where the old path to the mine should start. I didn't find it right away. It was an overgrown, barely noticeable clearing between dwarf firs. But there is a path. You can feel the compacted earth under your feet. Someone has been walking here for decades. After a mile, the forest parted. Ahead was the same cliff. A vertical wall of gray granite with scree and young forest below. It looks natural, except that 12 years ago there was a gentle slope. I took out my binoculars, examined the wall. About 200 feet from the base, there was a horizontal crack. No, not a crack, a ledge. And there's something shiny on it. The old path did not break off at the edge. It went off to the right, rounding a rocky ledge. There, 30 feet from the cliff, I found what I was looking for. The remnants of a route down. Steps carved into the rock, with traces of dynamite in places. The miners of the 1920s knew how to build roads. The descent took 3 hours. I had to use the rope twice. Some sections were crumbling. But the trail led exactly to the shelf I had noticed from above. What glistened was the remains of a tin roof, a dilapidated barrack, the timbers blackened by time. Nearby, the entrance to the attic covered with stones, and a modern sign on a steel pin. Danger, no entry, U.S. Department of Energy. So that's it. The landslide didn't hide this place. It was deliberately hidden by blowing up part of the slope to create the illusion of a natural landslide. Check the radiometer. The background is elevated. 50 micro-roentgens per hour instead of the normal 15. Not fatal, but unpleasant. I took a photo of the sign, the barracks, the entrance to the Edite, in the barrack, the remains of the furnishings, rusty bunks, fragments of a table, a hob stove, and modern items, empty stew tins with labels from the 70s, scraps of polyethylene, an aluminium mug. Someone used this place much later than the 1920s. There's a metal box in the corner under a layer of rubbish. The lock is broken. Inside, yellowed documents in plastic files. With trembling hands, I pulled out the first one. Project Cascade 7, top secret, 1952, exploration of uranium deposits for the needs of the Atomic Energy Commission. Flipped through the rest of it. Schematics of adits, reports on uranium content, lists of personnel, and an urgent evacuation order dated the 15th of November 1952. In connection with the incident in Adit Num 3, stop all work. Personnel to be evacuated, entrances to be sealed. The level of secrecy is maximum. At the bottom of the box is a personal diary. No name, but the handwriting looks like one of the engineers. The 12th of November, drilling at 400 feet. Strange instrument readings, like there's a void behind the wall. But geology does not suggest karst cavities. The 13th of November, the wall has been breached. Behind it is indeed a cave. The air is stale, but we can breathe. We went down for reconnaissance. The cave is huge, goes deeper than the light of lanterns. There are strange formations on the walls, not stalactites. What do they look like? Petrified trees? But we're deep underground. The 14th of November, back with the samples. Johnson's not feeling well. Nausea, headache. The others are complaining of malaise too. Geiger counters are going crazy around the samples. It's not uranium. It's something else. The 15th of November, Johnson's in a coma. The others have radiation sickness, but that's impossible. The radiation levels aren't that high. Evacuation order. They say experts are coming. They'll seal the cave. God, what have we let loose? Last entry. Nothing further. Photographed all the documents. The sun was slipping towards the west. It was time to go back. But first I checked the rubble at the entrance to the Edite. The stones were loose. They had settled over the years. Cold air was blowing through the gap between them. The Edite was not completely blocked. There, in the depths, is what caused the military to panic in 1952, what made geologists disappear in 1984, what is still protected at the cost of human lives. The ascent took 4 hours. In the darkness, we had to use a torch. On the trail, Sordo switched on his radio. "Base, this is Carter. I'm on my way back. It's okay." "Copy that, Dan. How are the trails?" "Need to update the labeling. I'll write a report tomorrow." Standard exchange. But when I got back to the Jeep, there was an envelope on the windscreen under the windscreen wiper. Unsigned. Inside was a photograph. "I'll do it myself. An hour ago." I'm standing at the entrance to the adit with documents in my hands, filmed with a telephoto lens from the neighboring slope, and a note. "Curiosity killed the cat, Mr. Carter. You have 24 hours to forget what you saw, or you can follow Dr. Chen." My hands were shaking as I started the car. They were watching. They knew where I was going. They were waiting. But why was it given 24 hours? Why didn't they stop it right away? Maybe they need time to prepare, or maybe they want me to decide whether to keep quiet, or... There was a tape recorder in the glove compartment. All the way to the station, I used the tape to record everything I saw and found. If something happened to me, I wanted there to be some trace of it. The first thing I did at the station was to develop the photos. Luckily, there is a small photo laboratory. The pictures turned out clear. The documents were legible. I made 2 sets of copies. I'll hide one here, the other. The phone on the desk rang. It was too late for calls, almost midnight. "Ranger Carter?" The voice is unfamiliar, professionally neutral. "Yes." "You have received our message. We hope you're being reasonable. By the way, your son Tommy is playing football well. It would be a shame if he got injured at tomorrow's game." Horns, sitting at the table, 24 hours. I could stay silent, pretend it never happened. I could write a report on the trails, forget about the adit, the cave, something that shouldn't exist. Or took out an envelope. He wrote the address in large letters. Seattle Times Investigative Unit. He enclosed copies of photographs, a copy of a tape recording, and a letter summarizing the facts. If I do, there's no turning back. If I don't, I'll live with that knowledge like Steve Pierce did, until the day he dies. Outside the window, a new day was beginning. The 1st of November, 1996, All Saints' Day. I had 18 hours to decide. I stayed up all night. By morning, the decision had dawned on me. If they were willing to threaten my son, they were hiding something monstrous. The envelope for the Seattle Times was left on the table. Packed my backpack instead. If I have a few more hours, I'll use them to find out the truth. 5 o'clock in the morning, I set off again. But not to the Sordo Trail, for they must be waiting there. An old logging road 15 miles south. It's been abandoned for 20 years, but a Jeep can get through. From there, you can access the adit from the other side. Before I left a note for my colleague. Jim, if I'm not back by tonight, send the envelope on the desk to the address. It's important. Dan. The road was worse than he remembered. I had to clear debris twice. But by 9 a.m. I was there. It's 4 miles to the adit through woods and scree. It's a difficult route, but they don't expect me on this side. I walked fast. In my rucksack, I had a minimum of equipment, but 2 spare batteries for a torch, a gas mask from an army kit, and a dosimeter. The 1952 documents mentioned a cave. I've got to see it. Reached the adit by noon. No one. Silence. Even the birds are silent in this place. The rubble at the entrance was easier to clear than I thought. The stones were holding fast. Behind them was the blackness of the tunnel. I switched on the torch, checked the dosimeter. The background is growing. Already 80 micro-Roentgen. I put on a gas mask and went inside. The adit was roughly penetrated with blasting marks on the walls. After 200 feet, there is a fork. Straight ahead, the main shaft to the right, a side drift with a sign, No 3. That's where I went. Another 100 feet, and there it was, the breach in the wall. Beyond that, blackness beyond the torch beam. The dosimeters going off the charts. 200, 300, 500 micro-Roentgens. But the strange thing is, I don't feel the typical symptoms of radiation sickness. On the contrary, a feeling of euphoria, as if I had breathed in pure oxygen, squeezed through the breach and froze. The cave was enormous. The vaults were lost in darkness, but that's not what struck me. The walls were covered in structures. They weren't stalactites or geological formations. It was like a petrified forest turned inside out. Branches, trunks, roots, all made of stone, but stone that glowed from within with a pale phosphorescent light. He came closer, touched it with his gloved hand. Warmth. These formations radiated heat, and also a vibration, barely perceptible, on the edge of perception. The dosimeter was already showing 1,000 micro-Roentgens, but I felt great. Moreover, my old knee injury from the army had stopped aching for the first time in years. He went deeper into the cave. The stone forest was getting thicker. Some of the trees were several feet thick, and in their glow I began to discern patterns, not random but organized, like veins under the skin, like a neural network under a microscope. In the center of the cave found what the military were looking for in 1952 source. It was a structure 30 feet high, not a tree, more like a crystal of organic form. It pulsed with light, and with each pulse, a wave of that very vibration traveled through the cave. Around it, the air was distorted like hot asphalt. At the base of the structure is a camp, modern tents, equipment, and people. 3 sitting with their backs to the tree. They don't move. He came closer, shined his torch. I froze in horror. They were geologists from 1984. I recognized them from the archive photos. Dr. Chen, Haskell, Wu, they were alive. But, their bodies sprouted into the ground. Literally, there were roots extending from their feet and hands into the stone floor. Their skin was covered in places with the same phosphorescent bark as the walls. Eyes open, but pupils dilated to the extreme. "Don't be afraid," Dr. Chen's voice, lips barely moving. "We realized too late. It's not radiation. What is it?" My voice is muffled through the gas mask. "Symbiosis, alive, ancient, waiting." Haskell spoke up as well, continuing the thought. "Changes on a cellular level. First heals, then we become a part," Wu finished. "Part of the net. It doesn't hurt anymore. It's not scary. Join." I backed off. The dosimeter was beeping like crazy. 2,000 microroentgens, a lethal dose in an hour. But I knew it wasn't radiation in the normal sense. It was something else, something alive. How many of you are there? Everyone. Who found? The miners, 1924, military, 1952, we, 1984, soon, you, Volkov. Where is Alexei Volkov? Gone. Warned. Not believed. Caught. Clinic. Madness. So the fourth geologist tried to tell the truth. Ended up in a mental institution. The central structure pulsed harder. And I felt it. The call. I didn't hear it. I felt it. Every cell in my body responded to the pulsation. The gas mask made it hard to breathe. My hands reached for the straps. No. He turned and ran. There was a chorus of voices behind me. You'll be back! Everyone! Come back! He jumped out of the cave, scrambled through the adit. Outside, he collapsed to his knees, tearing off his gas mask. He was breathing like a hunted horse. Checked the dosimeter, still beeping. Looked at his hands. They were fine. So far, so good. But something was different inside. I felt it. The seed has been planted. The only question was how fast it would germinate. I returned to the Jeep at dusk. There was a surprise at the station, a black government sedan, and the familiar voice of a plainclothes agent. Mr. Carter, you have exceeded your allotted time. I know what's in the cave, it's not radiation. We know too, for 40 years we've known, and for 40 years of trying to understand. Those people, they're alive. In a way. Like living coral or fungus, it's a symbiotic organism, Mr. Carter. Probably older than mankind. It doesn't kill, it integrates. Why don't you destroy it? Tried. 1987, napalm, then charges, hence your landslide. 6 months later, it was back to normal. It regenerates faster than we can destroy. And another thing. The agent was silent for a moment. Those who have become part of the network, they are happy. By every measure. No pain, no illness, no aging. Dr. Chen was supposed to die of cancer in 1985. Instead, she exists for 12 years. That's no life. And what is life, Mr. Carter? They think, they feel, they communicate, just not in the same way we do. I was silent. The call of the cave still echoed in my head. What's wrong with me now? The agent pulled out a small device, ran it along my body. The initial stage of infection. You have a choice. If you come with us, we can try to slow it down. Science doesn't stand still. Or go back to a normal life. The process can take years. First, you'll feel your health improve. Then the urge to return. Eventually, instinct will lead you back to the cave, like everyone else. What if I tell the world? Try it. We won't stop you, but who's going to believe it? A story about an ancient organism underground that turns people into part of itself? They'll put you in the same clinic where Volkov is. He died last year, by the way. He took his own life. Couldn't live with the memories. Took some photos, documents out of his pocket. You can have it. We have the copies. We've been documenting everything since 1952. Someday maybe we'll find a way to communicate, or a way to coexist. Until then, we just observe and hide. Why are you telling me? Because you're already a part of it, whether you like it or not, and because you're tired of hiding it. Maybe it's time to start preparing humanity for the truth, little by little, through people like you. The agent headed for the car, turned around. Think about it, Mr. Carter. If you need help, call me. Left a business card. No name, just a phone number. Left alone at the station. Night, papers on the table, an envelope for the newspaper, and a knowledge that burns inside stronger than any radiation. Writing this in a small flat in Spokane, retired from the Park Service in December. Said it was a health issue. No lie. The first few weeks were euphoric. Old injuries healed. My eyesight improved. I threw away my reading glasses. Energy was booming. But then the dreams started. I dream of a cave, dreaming of a pulsing light. I dream of the voices of those who have become part of the network. They don't call, they just tell about what they see, about what they feel, of a unity that divided humanity does not know. I wake up in a cold sweat, but the sweat glows in the darkness with a pale phosphorescent light. I called the number on the business card. They came, took some tests. They said the process is slower than expected. Maybe there's a natural immunity. Maybe it's the radiation dose. They gave us some experimental drugs. They helped dull the call, but they don't stop the changes. In February, the kids came over for the weekend. Tommy has grown a lot in a year. Sarah lost her first tooth. Normal kids, human kids, hugging them and thinking, how much longer can I pretend to be normal? Linda remarked, "You look beautiful, Dan. What's wrong with you?" "New diet," I lied, if she knew. Yesterday I woke up and found that the nails on my left hand were translucent. If you look closely, you can see a network of thin, glowing threads under the skin. I'm wearing gloves for now. The agent, now I know his name is Mitchell, calls once a week. He says the government is considering options. Maybe they'll set up a closed colony for the infected. Maybe they'll try to make contact with the central organism. Maybe they'll just wait. "How many of us are there?" I asked. "The reliably confirmed ones are about 300 across the country. But that's only those who have applied for help. The real number could be many times higher. 300 people, carriers, seeds, waiting for their time." Sometimes I catch myself thinking, is it so bad? The world rolls into the new millennium with its wars, diseases, hatred. And somewhere underground there's another life form, ancient, wise, perhaps offering unity in place of individuality. But then I remember Dr. Chen's eyes, human and inhuman at the same time. And I realized that some boundaries can't be crossed, even if it's heaven on the other side. Sent copies of the documents to the university library, in the local legends and folklore section. Let them lie there. Maybe in years to come, some student will stumble across them, get interested, start digging, find the truth, and I will wait, day after day, watching the glowing threads under my skin grow brighter, as the call of the cave grows louder, as the human in me slowly gives way to something else. Mitchell says I have another year, maybe 2. Then instinct will overpower will, and I'll go back to the Cascades. I'll find a trail that's not on the maps. I'll go down the adit. I'll enter the cave and become part of something bigger. But as long as I'm here, as long as I can remember my name, as long as I can write these lines. My name is Daniel Carter. I was a ranger for North Cascades National Park. I found a place that shouldn't exist, and it changed me forever. If you are reading this, be careful. Some secrets are not hidden because we are afraid of them, and because they're waiting for us to be ready, waiting for the time to come. They are waiting for us.